Part 10. The Liu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yoon. Chapter 91. Chapter 91. The character who has fascinated thousands of girls. I have to buy something to eat when we get there soon. I'm a little hungry, Gu Jinchu said, touching his stomach. I remember you didn't eat less during class. Loses who rolled his eyes at him. If you see through it, why don't you tell it? There's no one like you, Gu Jinchu complained. I want to buy a cup of milk tea soon. I heard they said there is a milk tea shop over there that makes really delicious milk tea. I'll try it, Avril said with her face in her hands. Look, not only do I just want to eat, but she also wants to drink, Gu Jinchu pointed at Avril. As the saying goes, a lazy has a lot of trouble, and this sentence couldn't describe the two of you better, Loses who retorted mercilessly. Gu Jinchu, Avril Lavigne. As the bus stopped, Avril and Gu Jinchu arrived at the terminal while noisily. This place was recommended by Gu Jinchu. People like him who are not doing their job know how to go out when they have time, so it is not surprising that he knows so many places. I have never been to the terminal in a car. There are so many shopping places here. Avril looked at the various shops and felt a little dazzled. A woman's nature prompted her to rush in the next second, but she knew exactly what she was doing today. You've been back home for so long, you should go out and hang out more often, Gu Jinchu said. But I have to study. Where do I have time? Avril said with some regret. No one is like you. You can't sit still. Studying is like killing you. All you want to do is run out, Loses who said with disgust. Friends should complement each other. If it weren't for me, would you know that there is such a place? The three of them chattering all the way, led by Gu Jinchu, they walked into a store with a somewhat retro decoration. Hi, Zioku is here? Are these your friends? You guys sit down first and I'll call my grandpa. The cashier girl greeted me warmly as soon as she entered the door. Very familiar, Avril raised her eyebrows and said. That's right, you don't even know what kind of role your Mr. Gu is, Gu Jinchu said proudly as he raised his bangs on his forehead. He, arrogant. The three people sat on the sofa over there and waited for a while. The footsteps upstairs gradually approached, accompanied by a slight cough. When Gu Jinchu heard the sound, he stood up and ran over. Then he lost sight of him, but his voice still reached their ears. Grandpa Xiao, I'm here again. It was Gu Jinchu's voice. You brat, haven't you been here for a long time? It was an old voice, and the owner of this voice should be Grandpa Xiao. No way, didn't I just come here last weekend? Gu Jinchu said coquettishly. The old man smiled like a child and said, but why do I feel like I haven't seen you for a long time? It seems that my memory is not good as I get older. Grandpa is always the youngest in my eyes. It's just that you have a sweet mouth. As the sounds and footsteps got closer and closer, Loses who and Avril finally saw clearly the owner of the voice and Grandpa Xiao in Gu Jinchu's mouth. He was an old but strong man. Even with a cane in his hand, it was clear that he looked handsome and heroic in his youth. When he was young, he must have been a figure who fascinated millions of girls. Hello, Grandpa. Loses who and Avril stood up together and said hello. Okay, sit down quickly, Grandpa Xiao said cheerfully when he saw so many children. Grandpa, they are all my friends. I plan to come to your place today to buy something for another good friend of ours. Okay, you can take a stroll around and let Xiao 11 install it for you. Grandpa Xiao looked at his granddaughter. Okay Grandpa. Grandpa Xiao's granddaughter Xiao 11 nodded. Grandpa, when they make the selection, you can ask for more money and then kill them. Then give me a small commission. Gu Jinchu winked and said. End of this chapter. The Liu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yoon. Chapter 92. Chapter 92. Angel of Justice. Grandpa Xiao shook his head with a smile. How can that be done? These things are not valuable, so I can't ask for a sky-high price, right? Gu Jinchu smiled and said, I know that Grandpa is not like those profiteers. I will show them. Grandpa Xiao nodded with a smile, and Gu Jinchu led them to the first row of shelves. This store is very large, with all kinds of things displayed on the shelves. They are all made of various games and TV animation characters, all made by Grandpa Xiao himself. Many people who like anime characters from all over the country like to buy and collect them from here. However, Grandpa Xiao is getting older and it is very difficult to make one, so he has basically stopped taking out in recent years and only sells to people he knows well. Those who like it very much but can't really buy it can only gather here to look at it. The reason why Gu Jinchu knew this place and was very familiar with Grandpa Xiao was because his grandfather had a good relationship with Grandpa Xiao, and half of the toys he had when he was a child were made by Grandpa Xiao. The three people shuttled between the shelves. Because there were many anime characters, it was difficult for Lu Zizhu to find what he was looking for. Lu Zizhu worked hard for Zhang Wanan's birthday this time and was determined to give her a surprise. "I saw it, it's up there," Avril, who had been searching very carefully, shouted in surprise. Lu Zizhu and Gu Jinchu heard the sound and quickly ran to another row of shelves. "It's so high." Gu Jinchu looked in the direction of Avril's finger. "Is there a ladder?" Lu Zizhu asked after looking around. "I don't know if there is one, but I didn't see it anyway. Let's ask Sister Xiao 11 to come over and help us get it down," Gu Jinchu suggested. "That's all," Avril echoed. They looked at Lu Zizhu together. Lu Zizhu looked at the height and nodded in agreement. "Sister Xiao 11, Sister Xiao 11. Gu Jinchu shouted several times, and sure enough, Xiao 11 immediately responded to him in the next second, and then he saw her figure more than 10 seconds later. "Wherever you need help, there is me, Angel of Justice Xiao 11, Xiao 11 ran over and said excitedly. "What's wrong?" she asked again. "We need the Doraemon above," Avril said, pointing to the top. "Wow, what a good vision," Xiao 11 praised. It's not me," Avril quickly denied and said, "Brother Zizhu is interested in her." "Young man, you have good taste," Xiao 11 said as he took the ladder from the side. "Baby, please lean aside, be careful if sister falls and hits you." After hearing what Xiao 11 said, the three of them quickly hid aside. Xiao 11 climbed up and looked down and rolled his eyes. "Are you so afraid of me?" "Yes, what if it hits us?" "Are you responsible?" Gu Jinchu stuck out his tongue and said. "You bastard, wait for me to go down and beat you up," Xiao 11 shouted loudly. "What's wrong? The pot is fried?" "It's not honest to take something," Grandpa Xiao in front shouted angrily. Xiao 11 and Gu Jinchu were immediately frightened into silence. After a while, Xiao 11 came down with Doraemon in his arms and blew on it. "Put it on top, and since I'm usually lazy, there will inevitably be some dust on it. I'll take it over and wipe it for you." "Hush," Xiao 11 whispered, for fear that Grandpa would know that she was too lazy to wipe the things on it. Gu Jinchu just caught her handle and smiled evilly. "I'm going to tell Grandpa Xiao and ask him to lock you up for a month without being able to leave the house." After speaking, he stuck out his tongue childishly. "Then I'll beat you every time I see you," Xiao 11 also threatened him. No, no, I won't tell Grandpa Xiao, so don't hit me." I don't know what ulterior shadow frightened Gu Jinchu into this state. "That's good." After Xiao 11 said this, he took Doraemon and walked in front. When Xiao 11 walked a little further, Avril grabbed Gu Jinchu and asked quietly, "Is Sister Xiao 11 scary?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yun. Chapter 93. Chapter 93 Fiancé. It's not very scary, it's very, very scary. You can't understand that kind of terror. Gu Jinchu exaggeratedly shrank his shoulders as he spoke. Is it convenient to talk about it? Avril's heart for gossip was igniting. Gu Jinchu nodded, thought for a while and said, how to put it? It's just, she has learned taekwondo, but I haven't. I have been beaten by her but I can't beat her. After Gu Jinchu finished speaking, he sadly left. Avril looked at his miserable back and laughed unkindly. Hearing the ridicule behind him, Gu Jinchu turned around and wanted to say something, but after taking one look at it, he couldn't say anything because the man was laughing so hard. He is so miserable for a man. It is embarrassing enough that he cannot beat loses who, but now he cannot even beat a girl. But thinking about it, it seems understandable, because he knows taekwondo, this is the point. Gu Jinchu shook his head helplessly, gritted his teeth and said, stop laughing, let's go. I've never seen anyone with such a low smile, Gu Jinchu muttered, not daring to say it out loud. It's so embarrassing. When the two of them walked to the front, the Doraemon had already been wiped by Xiao 11 and carefully installed. Young man, do you like this? Grandpa Xiao asked, holding Luzu's hand and asking him to sit next to him. No, I'll give it away, Luzu explained. Giving it to someone? Who is it for? Grandpa Xiao asked curiously. To his fiancée, Gu Jinchu, who had just come out from behind, said with a smile. Huh? Fiancé? Are you kidding me, brat? Xiao 11 looked at Gu Jinchu and then Luzu in disbelief. Even Grandpa Xiao, who has seen a lot of big things in the world, was shocked. Yes, Luzu nodded lightly under the gazes of the two people. Xiao 11 couldn't bear it anymore, she covered her heart and said hoarsely, Grandpa, I don't even have a boyfriend yet. Who told you to be so violent every day and think about using violence to control others? Gu Jinchu made a face as he spoke. Grandpa Xiao smiled helplessly, where can you find a partner if you stay in my little shop every day? Xiao 11 hummed, curled her lips and walked to the counter to fiddle with her mobile phone. The fiancé that Xiao Chu said is actually your Xiao Zume, right? Grandpa Xiao asked. Yeah, Luzu nodded again. It's good, I think you, Grandma Xiao, were my little childhood sweetheart back then, but now I'm the only one left, Grandpa Xiao said as he used his crutches and his smile disappeared. I'm still here, Grandpa Xiao 11 said hurriedly. You're not getting married anymore. I don't want to get married anymore, so I can stay with my grandpa. Silly girl, Grandpa doesn't need you to accompany him. Hearing what Grandpa Xiao said, Gu Jinchu, who had always been lively, lost his voice and fell silent. He has never met Grandma Xiao, and he doesn't know that Grandma Xiao and Grandpa Xiao are childhood sweethearts. Gu Jinchu looked at Luzu and found that he was now silent with his head lowered and rubbing the wrapped gifts with his fingers. The children talked to Grandpa Xiao and Xiao 11 for a while and prepared to get up and leave. Shall we eat here before leaving? Grandpa Xiao tried to keep them. Next time, Grandpa, I'm living at Luzu's house now, I have to go back with him, and we have to pick up his fiancée soon. I have to go back and do my homework, Avril, a good student, said. You kids. Grandpa Xiao shook his head helplessly, then you must eat here next time you come back, and by the way, bring your little fiancée to me, Grandpa Xiao said to Luzu. Grandpa, yes, Luzu nodded. Okay, let Sister Xiao 11 take you out, I won't go out. Grandpa Xiao waved his hand to indicate that they could leave. The three people nodded and Xiao 11 sent them out. End of this chapter. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yun. Chapter 94. Chapter 94. Would you like to celebrate my birthday with me? Zhongwanan's birthday happens to be on Saturday. The friends invited by Zhongwanan will come at the specified time in the afternoon. On this day, Lin 11 sent her out in order to arrange a happy birthday party for her in the afternoon. Zhongwanan also wanted to go to the hospital to accompany Tang Yu, so she readily agreed. Lin 11 bought a lot of props and decorations, and Lu Lin also did not go to the company to work as a salesperson for a day just for this day. Lin 11 got up early in the morning and moved the things he had prepared out of the trunk of the car. At this moment, Lu Lin, Lu Zizhu, and Gu Jinchu were already sitting safely on the sofa, waiting for instructions. Lin 11 took the things in and put them on the ground, then began to give instructions skillfully. Husband, you are responsible for hanging these things. Son, Zioku, you two just pop up balloons and stick them all to the wall in a while. What about you? Lu Lin asked. Of course I have my own things to do. I'll put out drinks and fruit plates. If the kitchen needs me, I'll cook, Lin 11 said proudly. No, 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 there are so many children here today. What if they eat bad food? Wife, just don't go into the kitchen today, Lu Lin said hurriedly. Even Lu Zizhu, who was quietly playing balloons, was frightened when he heard his mother was about to enter the kitchen. He thought for a while and said seriously, you probably don't want to become a criminal. Lin 11 was speechless for a moment. She rolled her eyes and said, is it really that terrible for me to cook? Lu Lin and Lu Zizhu, who had deeply understood it, nodded fiercely. They had been victims for many years. If they hadn't been lucky, they might have, ugh. Then it's better if I don't go. Lin 11 angrily took out the newly bought drinks and started to put them on the table. After pasting and fiddling with it for more than half an hour, Lu Lin straightened up with difficulty. His two children's birthdays had never been so grand before. He finally wanted to have a grand birthday, but he didn't expect it to be so difficult. At this moment, Avril came in, humming a little tune. Hello, I'm here. Do you need help? She greeted as soon as she entered the door. Lu Lin seemed to have seen a savior for a moment. Just as he was about to speak, Lin 11 beat him to it. Avril, when you come here, please sit down for a while, and then you can help Auntie lay out these things, Lin 11 said enthusiastically. No, Auntie, I'm not tired. I'll help you set it up now, Avril said and walked to Lin 11's side. Lu Lin immediately felt like a deflated balloon. He looked at Lu Zizhu and Gu Jinchu and found that they still had a lot of balloons to get, so he shook his head helplessly. It's my daughter's birthday anyway, so what's the point of having to work harder? Fight. Lu Lin thought to himself. The whole morning of fiddling with things passed by like this. Zhang Wanan didn't come back at noon. In order to surprise her, Lin 11 asked Lu Zizhu to accompany her to eat near the hospital when lunchtime was approaching. Others continued to tinker with it after lunch. If it didn't work, they tinkered with it again until everyone was satisfied. In the afternoon, the children invited by Zhang Wanan came one after another. Zhang Wanan usually has a good personality, and many people in the class like to play with her, so many people came. Lin 11 entertained the children, and asked Lu Lin to call Lu Zizhu on the other side. After answering the phone, Lu Zizhu returned to the ward and said to Zhang Wanan, shall we go home? Don't forget that today is your birthday. Okay, I'll tell Mom, Zhang Wanan said in a dignified manner. Lu Zizhu nodded and walked out to wait for her outside the door. In the ward, Zhang Wanan kissed Tang Yu gently and said, Mom, today is my birthday. When I make a wish, I want it to be about you. Can you wake up early and celebrate my birthday with me? The person on the bed did not respond. Zhang Wanan refused to give up and continued, you must wake up early. After she finished speaking, she glanced at Tang Yu before reluctantly leaving the ward. End of this chapter. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yun. Chapter 95. Chapter 95. Does she have no parents? Lu Zizhu took Zhang Wanan's soft little hand and walked out of the hospital door. Are you happy on your birthday today? Lu Zizhu asked. I'm so happy, how can I not be happy on my birthday, and there are so many people accompanying me, Zhang Wanan said happily, shaking Lu Zizhu's hand. As long as you're happy, Lu Zizhu smiled softly. Actually, he knew that Zhang Wanan most wanted Tang Yu to spend her birthday with her. The two people walked to the car while talking, sat in the car, and the driver stepped on the accelerator and the car sped off. The other side. Since Jongwon hasn't come back yet, Lin 11 is busy entertaining the children. These children are probably spoiled, so they are very picky and don't want anything. However, some children are still very sensible. Lin 11 ran around and tried her best to take care of every child. If it weren't for Mrs. Wang and the others' help, she would have lost her legs today. After placing food and drink for each child, Lin 11 said loudly, "Let's play for a while. Anan is already on the way back. When she comes back, can we sing happy birthday to her?" "Okay," everyone said in unison. At this moment, Gu Jinchu, as the king of children, has completely integrated into this group of children who are much younger than him. He doesn't know what he is mumbling about with them. Anyway, he is very happy. Avril is also very old here, but she doesn't like playing games, so she follows Lin 11 to take care of the children. But just when everyone was having fun, a very clear voice suddenly broke everything. The voice said, "Auntie, does Jongwon have no parents?" Lin 11 was stunned when he heard this, and even Lu Lin, who was usually a troublemaker, was stunned. But Gu Jinchu was angry and immediately swore. "Can you say P? If you don't have parents, who is entertaining you now? A nanny? Are you the only one who talks a lot? I think you look like you jumped out of a rock," Gu Jinchu scolded that boy. The boy was a little timid at this moment, and his voice immediately softened, "But they are just foster parents." "Ouch, you kid." Although Gu Jinchu couldn't beat Lu Zizhu and Xiao 11, who was learning taekwondo, he could definitely kick this kid one by one. He took a step forward angrily, and just then Lu Lin stopped him. "Zioku, don't move yet, I'll tell him," Lu Lin said seriously. Gu Jinchu had never seen Lu Lin look so serious. His body suddenly became tense, and he stood obediently and stopped talking. He just warned the brat with his eyes. He watched Jongwon grow up and played with her. He didn't allow others to say that she had no parents. Since Jongwon called him brother, he had to protect her. "I don't care who you heard it from, I just want to tell you that we are her parents, very close, this is her home, we love her very much, and I hope you will stop saying such things in the future," Lu Lin said forcefully. After hearing this, the boy didn't know whether he was scared or a little ashamed, but he lowered his head anyway. The living room turned from lively to silent. Lin 11 couldn't stand it any longer, and the twitching of his lips became the same as before. He said softly, "Everyone, let's go eat and drink. Have fun." Children are easily tempted by these things, so they quickly forget what just happened, and the living room becomes active again in an instant. When Lu Zizhu and Jongwon came back, the living room was in a harmonious scene. It was hard to tell what had just happened. Anyway, Jongwon was a little surprised to see such a scene. "Happy birthday, little birthday girl," Lu Lin and Lin 11 rolled out the cake together the moment she walked in, and then the children sang a birthday song. The most energetic ones were Gu Jinchu and He Chiu, regardless of whether they were in tune or not. Anyway, the voice is loud as reciting. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yoon. Chapter 96. Chapter 96 The Golden Boy. Jongwon looked at the big Doraemon-shaped cake and opened his mouth in surprise. "Anan, happy birthday." Lu Lin and Lin 11 walked up to her and gave her a gift box. Jongwon was a little at a loss and never took it. Finally, Lu Zizhu reminded her to take it. "Thank you, Mom and Dad, for your hard work," Jongwon said sincerely. After giving Jongwon's gift, Lu Lin magically took out a gift box. He said to Lu Zizhu, "Although today is An's birthday, we have also prepared a gift for you." This time it was Luz's whose turn to be surprised, but he quickly reacted and took it and thanked Lu Lin and Lin 11. Do you still remember the first photo taken of you in a small skirt and suit? Lin 11 asked. Remember, Zhang Wanan said loudly, and the photo she left is still in the pencil case. Remember Luz's who also replied. Take another photo, it's not a question. But the clothes are already too small, Luz's who said. After all, that was 3 years ago. How could they fit into the clothes of 3 years ago when they have grown taller 3 years later? Open it and see what's in the gift box, Lin 11 said. Luz's who and Zhang Wanan looked at each other, walked to the table together, put the gift box on and opened it. Dress, the two of them said at the same time. Yes, go ahead, and put it on, Lin 11 said. The two of them nodded and went upstairs hand in hand with their dresses. About 5 minutes later, Luz's who and Zhang Wanan held hands again and slowly walked down the stairs. At that moment, the two of them seemed to have their own light, making others envious. It's so beautiful, some people exclaimed. Zhang Wanan, who was being held by Luz's who, smiled slightly. She was as beautiful as a fairy. The two of them were a perfect match, like a pair of enviable golden boys and girls. They held hands and walked down the stairs. Lin 11 had already lit the candles and was waiting for Zhang Wanan to make a wish and blow out the cake. Make a wish for peace, Luz's who said softly. Zhang Wanan nodded, closed his eyes, lowered his head, made a wish, and blew out the candles. What wish did you make? Gu Jinchu couldn't wait to know. Zhang Wanan raised his head and glanced at Luz's who, smiled mysteriously and said, it won't work if you say it. Cut. Lin 11 and Lu Lin divided the cakes for everyone. After receiving the cakes, some people couldn't wait to spread the cakes to Zhang Wanan. During this period, Gu Jinchu and He Chiu were the most aggressive, and most of their faces were smeared by them. Luz's who watched Zhang Wanan being chased, shouting and wiping himself like a little cat, and couldn't help but cut off their chase midway and threaten them with his eyes. It's so boring to have such a cool face on someone else's birthday, Gu Jinchu couldn't help but say after being stopped. That's right, He Chiu agreed. Can't you feel bad, Luz's who said arrogantly, and then he took Zhang Wanan and prepared to take her to take a shower. Just as he was about to walk up the steps, someone called Zhang Wanan's name and chased after him. Luz's who and Zhang Wanan stopped together and turned around to look back. When they saw the person coming, Luz's whose face darkened. Is something wrong? Zhang Baihui glanced at him, ignored him, and looked at Zhang Wanan. Anan, happy birthday, this is your birthday gift, he said, holding a gift box. Zhang Wanan took the gift box and hurriedly thanked it. Zhang Baihui shook his head. You're welcome. If you have anything to do, go upstairs first. Zhang Wanan nodded and said, you go and eat the cake first. After saying that, he went upstairs holding the gift. What is it? Luz's who asked. Zhang Wanan looked at the box. I didn't look at it, how could I know? Don't you want to take a look? Zhang Wanan was a little puzzled by Luz's who suddenly spoke in a strange manner, but still said patiently, then you have to cleanse your feelings first. Luz's who nodded and led her straight into the bathroom. End of this chapter. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yun. Chapter 97. Chapter 97. Just what he wanted. Zhang Wanan's entire face was almost covered with cake. When she washed it, it became more and more sticky, and it was still sticky. Zhang Wanan almost went crazy looking at her face. Luz's who on the side couldn't see it and held her hand down. I'll wash you, he said. Zhang Wanan blinked and looked at him blankly with her big eyes. What's wrong, are you stupid? Luz's who felt a little funny. Zhang Wanan quickly shook his head to show that he was not stupid. Lower your head, Luz's who gently pressed her head and said. Zhang Wanan was acting like a fool at the moment. She would do whatever Luz's who asked her to do, as if she had turned into a controlled robot. Loses who turned on the faucet and took a handful of water and gently rubbed it on Jongwonen's face. While Loses who was getting a handful of water, Jongwonen suddenly asked hesitantly, "Don't you think it's dirty?" Loses who was stunned for a moment and raised his head to look at himself in the mirror. Then he lowered his head and gently rubbed her face and said, "I don't mind." "Aren't you misophobic?" "Yes," Loses who said quietly. "Then don't you feel that your hands are sticky and uncomfortable?" "Don't you think it's dirty?" Jongwonen hurriedly reached out and grabbed his wrist and stopped letting him wash it. Instead, she raised her head and looked at him seriously. Loses who smiled slightly and pressed her head down with his other hand and said, "I have misophobia. I used to have it for everyone, including you, but now except for you, I will not dislike you." Jongwonen couldn't help but want to snicker when she heard this, but she couldn't move her face because Loses who was washing her face, so she suppressed it and just nodded. It turns out that he doesn't dislike himself. Jongwonen thought. After righting my face, I changed my clothes and went downstairs. When he first arrived at the stairs, Loses who saw Jongbai-hui sitting quietly on the sofa from a distance. He suddenly remembered that the gift had not been opened yet. He cleared his throat and said uncomfortably, "I haven't looked at the gift from your deskmate yet." "Let's have tonight, everyone has given gifts." Jongwonen continued to hold his hand and move forward. Jongwonen is very popular, and all the children who come have prepared gifts, so the gifts have piled up. "Go over there." Loses who pointed to a sofa on the other side. Jongwonen saw that her classmates were all having fun and that their parents were taking good care of them, so she left here with peace of mind. As a result, as soon as they got there, sat down, and took a piece of cake to eat, Sujiaojiao and Hichayu came over, followed closely by Gu Jinchu and Avril. "Why are you here? Aren't you going to play over there?" Gu Jinchu said. "Yes, let's play games," Hichayu also said excitedly. "Because that game was created by them." "I won't go." Loses who refused coldly. "Tch, proud," Gu Jinchu and Hichayu said in unison, and then walked away from everyone's side with their arms crossed in a very arrogant manner. The two of them have become completely familiar with each other, and they have become like real brothers in one night. Sujiaojiao glanced at Loses who, then timidly sat down next to Jongwonen, and then thoughtfully pulled Avril to sit down as well. Why don't you go and play?" Sujiaojiao asked. "They are all for children to play with," Loses who replied. Sujiaojiao was speechless for a moment. She rolled her eyes and said, "But we are children too, including you." "He is not a child." Jongwonen glanced at Loses who and said. He felt that he was no longer a child very early on, and even Jongwonen herself felt that he was no longer a child, because he had always been an adult in her eyes. "You really understand me," Loses who said. Sujiaojiao took one look and felt that he was asking for boredom, then he pulled Avril up and said, "Let's go too." When they were all gone, Loses who smiled and said, "It's just what I wanted." End of this chapter. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yoon. Chapter 98. Chapter 98, Jealousy is overturned. Jongwonen glanced at him, thinking that there must be something wrong with this man. "What do you want to eat? I'll get it for you," Loses who asked. "I want to eat small pudding, please ask the waiter to get one for me," Jongwonen replied playfully. "Okay, please wait a moment, young lady," Loses who said cooperatively and then bowed slightly. Jongwonen nodded slightly, acting calmly and generously. Then Jongwonen saw Loses who go to the side and pick up a tray, then put one hand behind his back solemnly, and walked over there holding the tray with the other hand. As soon as he got there, he saw Lu Lin and Lin 11 walking over there with trays to pick up things. Lin 11 was a little surprised when she saw her son holding a tray to put things on. "Son, you finally know how hard your parents have worked so hard and you have to help them," Lin 11 said with great emotion. "No, I helped in and get it," Loses who said. "I know, why are you so diligent all of a sudden?" It turns out you are showing affection. Lu Lin stood next to his wife and snorted coldly. Lin 11. Well, she was overthinking it. Go away. Lu Lin waved his hand, not wanting him to interfere with his eyes anymore. He was about to break his legs. After all, this was for his daughter. If Lu Zizhu held a birthday party like this, he would definitely not be so diligent. At that time, he will also show off his affection. Lu Zizhu took the things and left without saying a word. As a result, when he walked back, he saw Zhang Wanan having a lively conversation with someone from a distance, even smiling like a fool. At that moment, Lu Zizhu's face suddenly dropped, and his hand at his side clenched tightly into a fist. He walked over quickly with the tray, stood behind them, and said abruptly, "Miss Zhang, your pudding is here." Zhang Wanan was startled by his sudden appearance. When she turned around, she saw him staring at her coldly. "Thank you, please stop standing around and sit down quickly. I'm talking to Bei Huai." Zhang Wanan jumped into the fire pit. Lu Zizhu snorted inwardly, returning to Bai Hui was quite cordial. He had never heard her call him Zizhu before. He, woman. Hey, Mr. Zhang is here too. Lu Zizhu pretended to have just noticed him, but in fact, the jealousy in his heart was already overturned. Zhang Baihui looked at Lu Zizhu with a slight smile and nodded. "Stop standing, sit down quickly. You are an An's good desk mate, I can't neglect you, or what if an An gets angry later," Lu Zizhu said angrily. No matter how stupid Zhang Wanan is, she can understand it, but Lu Zizhu is clearly looking for trouble. "Sit down," Zhang Wanan said with a smile, trying not to embarrass Zhang Baihui. Zhang Baihui nodded and sat down, and then Zhang Wanan also sat down. Lu Zizhu went around, took the pudding, put it in front of Zhang Wanan, and said, "Eat." "Let's talk in a moment," Zhang Wanan said. "It won't taste good after a while," Lu Zizhu said stubbornly. "But it has been there for so long, not even a while," Zhang Wanan said. Lu Zizhu nodded and directly picked it up and put it in her mouth, saying seriously, "Eat." It seemed as if Zhang Wanan would be beaten by him if he didn't eat it for a second. Zhang Wanan rolled her eyes. She could tell that this guy was definitely looking for trouble, so she would follow him and leave him with no trouble to find. Zhang Wanan glanced at Zhang Baihui and found that he was smiling awkwardly. Zhang Wanan also smiled awkwardly and said, I'll eat first, and we'll talk later." "Good. Don't talk when you eat, don't talk when you sleep, don't talk." Zhang Wanan took the mouthful silently. After Zhang Wanan finished eating, Lu Zizhu praised, "That's good. Do you want to eat more?" "I won't eat it," Zhang Wanan replied angrily. Lu Zizhu nodded, acting generously, but the smile on his lips was fake. He said, "Go ahead." End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yun. Chapter 99. Chapter 99, No Promise. Zhang Wanan glanced at him, and stopped talking to him. She turned back decisively and continued talking to Zhang Baihui. "I heard that the school is going to hold a reading competition. The teacher recommended you to go, right?" Zhang Wanan asked. "Yes, it starts next week." "That's good. You have a nice voice and you can read well. You will definitely get first place." Zhang Wanan excitedly raised her thumbs up, as if she was going to win the first place in the competition. "Thank you, but I don't know if I can win the prize." "If I win the prize, I'll treat you to something delicious," Zhang Baihui said. Yeah. The two of them were chatting like no one else was around, but they were spurned by Lu Zizhu. "You're worthless." "Who are you talking about?" Zhang Wanan turned around and asked. "Who knows," Lu Zizhu said proudly, arms folded together. Zhang Wanan tugged her lips and imitated Lu Zizhu's fake smile, saying, I just have no future, what's wrong? Isn't the food I bought you enough to eat? Do you want others to treat you to food? Loses who asked. It's not enough. Don't you sometimes say that I'm a pig? How can I eat the things you bought for me? It's not enough, Jongwanan said angrily. If it's not enough, just tell me, and I'll buy it for you. If you don't say anything, I will eat what Jiangbai Hui invited. Loses who gritted his teeth and said again, no future. Who are you talking about? Say who knows. Well, as for her, she doesn't want to pay attention to this person anymore, and she doesn't know why she is still like this. Jongwanan ignored him and simply left him aside while continuing to talk to Zhang Baihui. Loses who felt bored after being left out for a long time, so he got up and left. Jongwanan saw him leaving with his peripheral vision, and Zhang Baihui also saw him. Why are you leaving? Jongwanan muttered softly, feeling full of loss. How about you guys chat? He doesn't seem to like me very much, Zhang Baihui said apologetically. He's like that, so indifferent to everyone, Jongwanan explained hurriedly, not wanting Zhang Baihui to think too much. But I'm not indifferent to you, Zhang Baihui said. Zhang Baihui's words broke through, and Jongwanan thought blankly, it seems like, he will always be nice to her and give in to her in everything, except when she makes him sad and angry. I'll go see him. Jongwanan stood up quickly and chased after him, but Loses who had already left without a trace. Jongwanan walked upstairs and poked his head into every room he passed, fearing that he might have left that room behind. But when he went to Loses who's room, he didn't find him. The whole room was empty. You must have gone out, right, to the garden, she said to herself. But just as he was about to close the door and exit, he heard a sound coming from the bathroom. You go down and take off your clothes. It was Avril Lavigne's voice. It looks like that day is just right. Why has it become smaller? Is it the wrong way? Gu Jinchu said. Jongwanan frowned while listening to the conversation inside, wondering why Avril was in the room with Gu Jinchu. Just as he was about to go inside to take a closer look, he heard Loses who's voice again. Help me get it up. Almost, Avril shouted excitedly. It still doesn't work, Loses who said. Take off your coat, it's too thick underneath, Avril said. Then there were sparse sounds of coming from inside. Jongwanan stood outside and listened to the conversation inside. Hey, it turned out that he came here to play dress-up show. Fortunately, she wanted to run up to coax him. It seemed that there was no need for this. Jongwanan walked out of the door angrily. She originally wanted to close the door gently, but after thinking about it, she slammed the door hard and went downstairs without looking back. The three people in the bathroom were stunned when they heard the movement. You looked at me and I looked at you. Their big eyes were wide open and their small eyes were at a loss. End of this chapter. The Lu family's wife is so sweet. Author, Yun. Chapter 100. Chapter 100. Every step is suffering. Who slammed the door? Avril asked. I don't know. Gu Jinchu looked confused. Did you leave the door open when you came in? Loses who looked at Gu Jinchu and asked. It's closed. What's going on? Avril was confused. Go out and have a look, Loses who said. You're dressed like this and you're going out to take a look? You wait here for me to take a look. Gu Jinchu stopped him. I didn't say go, I just let you go. Gu Jinchu rolled his eyes, opened the bathroom door and exposed his head, and then Avril showed another head. There is no one, the two said in unison. I told you to go out and have a look. Loses who kicked him. Can't you be nicer to me? Are you no longer a human being? Gu Jinchu was a little angry. Loses who ignored him, and Gu Jinchu found himself bored and walked out. Gu Jinchu went out for a patrol and came back with a confused look on his face. There is no one. Forget it if no one is there, don't worry about it, hurry up. So the three of them worked in the bathroom for about 5 minutes and finally got it done. Gu Jinchu high-fived Avril. we're done. Retreat, Gu Jinchu said. Wait a minute, Luzes who called to the two people who were about to leave, help me down, it's not easy for me to walk. Gu Jinchu turned back and stuck out his tongue, provoking him and saying, please beg me, if you beg me I will help you. Hurry up, Luzes who felt helpless. I want you to have such an attitude. Let's go, Gu Jinchu bowed his hands, put his hands back and prepared to leave. Please, please. Luzes who finally gave up. This thing was really uncomfortable to wear. He might fall if he walked unsteadily. He didn't want to be embarrassed. Gu Jinchu was shocked when he heard that Luzes who really begged him. He felt that this might be the peak of his life. Gu Jinchu coughed twice in a serious manner, I'm sorry if you do this. Hurry up, Luzes who couldn't help but roar. Gu Jinchu was trembling with fright, and hurried over to catch him, and then said naggingly, you have to have a good attitude when asking for help. I think you are itchy and need a beating, Luzes who said. If he hadn't been dressed so awkwardly, he would have beaten him long ago. Gu Jinchu helped Luzes who downstairs, while Avril followed leisurely behind. When they got downstairs, everyone turned their attention to them in an instant. To be precise, they turned their attention to Luzes who. Luzes who suddenly felt his face turn red. He would have never done this if he had known better. How embarrassing, he thought to himself. What the is this, Lulin exclaimed, holding the fruit plate. Luzes who was hiding in the doll costume, felt that black lines were falling out of his face. What the hell, this is his son, okay. I didn't remember doing this thing. It takes up space. Lin 11 also looked confused. Auntie, uncle, this is not a toy, this is Luzes who. Gu Jinchu was speechless. My son? How did my son become like this? Lin 11 exclaimed, how did he become a Doraemon? What is this operation? I'm just wearing a doll costume, Luzes who said impatiently in the clothes. Then Luzes who ignored them and walked towards Zhangwanan's place with cumbersome steps, feeling the feeling of being watched. He suddenly felt that every step he took was torture. What a big Doraemon, a girl exclaimed and hugged her. She probably likes Doraemon, otherwise she would be so excited. Luzes who felt it was difficult to move even an inch as his thigh was hugged. He swung his leg, but the girl still hugged him. Gu Jinchu on the other side quickly noticed this. Although he was a little happy, he still ran over and decided to rescue Luzes who. End of this chapter.